What's going on, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about something that rarely happens, but can happen, and it happened to me. And what it is subluxation after getting an ulnar nerve transposition. As many of you know, I had well, to back up even further, I dealt with, symptoms of cubital tunnel or ulnar nerve subluxation for about 5 or 6 years, till finally addressing it in my right hand, and felt great after the surgery. Started to slowly work into doing more activity, and once I started doing that, I started getting some numbness back in my hand. I was confused at the time. I didn't know what was going on. I made an appointment to go see my surgeon again, and ironically, the day before I met with him, I was on an elliptical machine, the ones where you're kind of sliding your feet and moving your arms like this. And every time I extended my arm all the way, I kind of felt a pop, and I thought, it's just my joints getting old. But what it was the nerve popping back over the medial epicondyle to the original location. So this is the thing to keep in mind after you have an ulnar nerve transposition, regardless of whether you have a subluxation issue or not. Before your surgery, your nerve was at rest like this, with your arm straight. It wasn't being bent around this medial epicondyle bone. It was sort of not being stretched. It was, if you wanted to rest your nerves, right? Like conservative treatments would be to sleep with night braces on to keep your arm straight so that you're not putting a strain on that nerve. It's avoiding things where you're bending your arm constantly, like talking on the phone or typing for long periods of time. That sort of thing can really irritate the ulnar nerve. That's what gives a lot of us these problems in the first place. I know some of you guitarists out there, your arms are bent, you're doing this. I mean, it's just, when you bend your arm and you're activating these fingers, which are controlled by that nerve, it's just kind of even more stress on it. But the thing to keep in mind is that after you have the transposition, your nerve is actually at rest when your arm is bent, because it's already now in front of this bone. So this is okay to do after the transposition. In fact, this is your arm being, your nerve being at its most restful position. And that's what I did wrong, and that's what I wanted to share with this gentleman that asked me a question on YouTube. He basically, my apologies for taking so long to get back to you, but, it was, he had an ulnar nerve transposition, and it was sort of about 8 weeks afterwards. He was starting to go back to doing some just isometric activities, nothing, with weights. But what he started to find was when, he woke up one morning and bent his arm back and forth, he noticed the pop, and he put his hand on the spot after bending the arms. And I know the feeling, my man. Trust me, I do. And it sounded like his was secured with a fascial flap. So, and mine was too. It's just there's like anti-brachial tissue. There's different tissues they could use to make that flap, even within sort of the fascia guidelines. So did mine break? Did mine stretch? I mean, the tricky thing is they have to make it loose enough so that it's not going to compress your nerve. It's not going to become a secondary point of compression, right? Because you don't want anything squeezing that nerve. It'll cause you the problems that you had in the first place. But it also has to be tight enough to keep it in the new spot. So it sounds like this guy, just unlucky like me, it could have broke, it could have stretched, it could maybe just it wasn't tight enough. Who knows? It could be a myriad of those things. You wouldn't know unless you opened your arm back up. But what I want you to try doing is keep that arm bent more often than not. Don't straighten it out all the time. That's what I did wrong when I started having the same issue. I was so used to keeping my arm straight when I had numbness to alleviate the numbness, but you have to do the opposite now. So sleep with your arm bent if you have already had a transposition and you're starting to get numbness because you're getting subluxation afterwards. And at the gym, it sounds like this guy works out. Don't fully lock out when you're pressing. When you're doing like a pull down or something like that. Don't go all the way up like this. Just stop right here. You can still get a good stretch by letting your scapula kind of just pull up. You'll feel the stretch. You can same thing with doing the curls or press downs. Don't lock out all the way. Just kind of stop just short. Little things like that can make a big difference. And I was convinced I was going to have surgery again, but to be honest, I'm okay now. I mean, now that I'm aware of how to give it some rest, that's worked great for me. So I think it could probably work for you as well. Hopefully, it's worth giving it a shot. You've already had the surgery once. You might as well try that. Try, like I said, it's the opposite. Before the transposition, your nerve is at rest with your arm straight. After the transposition, your nerve is at rest with your arm bent. So keep that in mind when you're going through your daily routines. And I mean, I condition myself. I still have issues in my left arm, but I haven't had any surgery on it yet. So if I'm carrying a bag of groceries, I use my left arm, because it's just going to hang down straight. If I do have to carry 2 bags of groceries, I kind of keep this one a little bent. You'll just get used to doing stuff like that. And I'm telling you, it's just little things. It's not like it's such a pain in my life that I'm distraught now because I have to do sort of things like that. Because I'm sure you want to avoid surgery. So just give that kind of stuff a try. And this goes for any of you that are dealing with some sort of subluxation or movement with your nerve after it's been transposed, it's going back to the original location. Again, keep it bent, just when you're trying to rest it, and try to avoid, full lockout, doing this stuff over and over and over again, that you'd be amazed at just how stopping short of that could hopefully, help alleviate your problems. And again, if it's getting rest when it's bent like this, it's less likely to act up. Because I'll be honest, when I'm at the gym and I'm deadlifting or doing anything like that, I'm not worried about any of this stuff. I don't consciously not lock my arms out. I'm sure I do, but I think the fact that I'm aware of it and I keep my arm bent for the most part to give my nerves some rest helps a great deal. So that when I do those things, it's not irritated. So I hope that helps. Give that a shot and let me know how it goes for you. Keep the questions coming, and as always,